Hi, and welcome to Hands-On Education. Today we will look at Tudor fashion and find out what people wore during the 16th century. But first of all, let's think about how we know what the Tudors wore over 400 years ago. Most of what we know about Tudor clothing comes from portraits painted at the time. However, it was only royal and wealthy families who had their portraits painted, and so most of our knowledge comes from a small, select group of people. Very few items of clothing have survived from this time, and so we know very little about what the average person wore. Historians also have evidence of sumptuary laws during the Tudor period. These laws placed regulations on the types of clothing people could wear. Only royalty could wear clothing trimmed with ermine. Gentry were permitted to wear clothes made from silk, but further down the social ladder, materials were more restricted. Royals were the only ones who could wear the colours crimson, purple, and gold. Women were expected to cover their hair and would wear a linen cap under headwear known as a hood. Catherine of Aragon wore an English hood with a distinct triangle shape. Anne Boleyn, however, wore a hood with a softer shape known as a French hood. A Spanish farthingale was brought to the English court by Catherine of Aragon. These were undergarments which provided a structure for women's skirts. During the reign of Elizabeth I, the French farthingale, also known as a drum, became more popular. This was designed to show the wealth of a woman, with pleats of expensive fabric extending outwards from the waist. The bodice and skirt of a woman in the Tudor court would be made from expensive fabric and decorated with jewels, ribbon, and lace. Rich men wore silk shirts with frills at the neck and wrists. Over this they wore a tight-fitting jacket called a doublet. On top of this they wore a jerkin, a sleeveless garment like a vest, worn over the doublet. They wore breeches, which were padded short trousers, and hose, which were long fitted stockings made from wool or even silk. The ruff collar was one of the most distinctive items of fashion, worn from the late 16th century and even into the early 17th century. The ruff collar began as a small frill attached to a shirt or dress. This evolved into a separate, elaborately pleated collar which encircled the neck. Ruff collars were worn by men, women, and even some children. Ruffs were initially made from linen and edged with lace. They were starched to keep a stiff shape. Later, some ruffs were made entirely of lace. The size and elaborate designs of a ruff became an indicator of wealth and importance. Ruffs were impractical, and the stiffness of the ruff made wearers stand upright. For your hands-on activity, create a model of your own ruff collar. You may even wish to try it on and pretend you're a part of the Tudor court. For more information about this activity and more related activities, please go to handsoneducation.com, The Tudors. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you soon. Bye.